What has happened, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm back to review the new documentary miniseries Bad Vegan, which is coming to Netflix on Wednesday, March 16th. Because of the many scandalous revelations scattered throughout the entirety of this series, this review will be spoiler-free. That said, any information unveiled in the trailer I'm going to consider fair game. Otherwise, it would just be impossible to discuss this topic at all. But all you really need to know is that this is a classic tabloid story, one that becomes increasingly bizarre as it unfolds, and on an emotional level, it's really tough to resist, and I frequently found myself completely bewildered and or exasperated by the actions of the people involved. While many of the events in this strange tale took place only a few blocks from my apartment, I was completely new to the story. The official synopsis describes it as such: a series that explores how Sarma Melangelis, the celebrity restaurateur behind the glittering New York hotspot Pure Food and Wine, went from being the queen of vegan cuisine to being known as the vegan fugitive. Shortly after meeting a man named Shane Fox on Twitter in 2011, Melangelis begins draining a restaurant's funds and funneling the money to Fox after he cons her into believing he could make her dreams, from expanding her food empire to making her beloved pit bull immortal, a reality, but only if she continues to obey his every request without question. A few years later, the couple, now married and on the lam after stealing nearly $2 million from the restaurant and its staff, are found holed up in a Tennessee motel by law enforcement. Their undoing? A charge made under Fox's real name, Anthony Stranges, for a Domino's pizza. And if that saucy description grabs you, let me throw a little gasoline on the brush fire. The documentary was directed by Chris Smith, a filmmaker who, in my opinion, is one of the best directors playing around with the documentary format. I first discovered him through the documentary American Movie, easily one of the most entertaining documentaries ever made, one that gets my highest possible recommendation. But more recently, in 2018, he also gave us the fantastic documentary Fire, The Greatest Party That Never Happened. Fire has a lot more in common with Bad Vegan in that we're once again dealing with the subject of frauds and charlatans, or what I simply like to call bullshit artists. But what makes these documentaries so fun is how, in hindsight, it's so easy to point our fingers and say, oh my God, it's so obvious. How could anyone ever be so stupid to believe this nonsense? But the really good documentaries out there always find a way to explore to what degree the victims of these scams might be complicit out of their eagerness to buy into whatever hype or spin that proves later to be completely false. And in recent years, we've seen the release of a ton of highly entertaining documentaries dealing with similar themes, namely con artists and charlatans. But whatever your favorite might be, Bad Vegan deserves to be mentioned right in the same breath as the rest of them. A few of my favorite examples are movies like WeWork, the making and unmaking of a $47 billion unicorn, and I also really enjoyed the Elizabeth Holmes documentary, The Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. If you've eaten these documentaries up with a spoon, then Bad Vegan is going to be absolutely right up your alley. So getting back to Bad Vegan, this doc is a great case study in how a kick-ass thriving business can totally fly off the rails. There are a few fields of endeavor in New York that are more competitive than bars and restaurants. And Pure Food and Wine is that one-in-a-million success story, a restaurant with a revolving door of celebrities and plenty of cash coming in the door. But the world of Sarma gets completely turned upside down when Shane Fox enters her life, and as teased in the trailer, the story is genuinely deranged. You'll learn all about the meat suit, which is even weirder than it sounds. You'll learn all about how he promised immortality to Sarma's dog. I mean, give me a fucking break. It's amazing to me how even really talented, successful people can buy into this crap, and there's so much more deliriously insane stuff that I can't mention, but rest assured, you ain't heard nothing yet. And as the trailer hints, this is not a simple story of a con artist and his victim. Through the testimony of her investors, a few journalists, her close friends and family members, as well as Sarma herself, you'll get all the gory details of how Sarma began funneling money from her business to Shane Fox, a decision which ultimately leads to this lovers on the run scenario that ends in a humiliating fashion when this vegan icon gets busted because they ordered a Domino's pizza in Tennessee. And this tale unfolds deliciously over 4 tight economical episodes. I was glued to the screen every step of the way. I don't think I'm going to be alone. And in closing, I just want to say how it's incredible to me seeing how documentaries have just thrived in recent years, so much so that I know plenty of people who have given up on watching narrative movies altogether. Why watch some cheesy sequel to a remake when you can watch something insane like Tiger King, or a really inspiring masterpiece like The Last Dance? But speaking of Tiger King, I should also mention that the director of Bad Vegan was also one of the producers on that runaway viral sensation. And what's really interesting now is seeing how many of these documentaries are being turned into feature films. The story of Elizabeth Holmes, the story of Tiger King. the story of WeWorks. They're all becoming movies, and in pretty much every case, the narrative feature film is a very pale echo of the really rich, rewarding experience of the original documentary. So don't wait for the movie version of Bad Vegan to come out. Go ahead and watch the documentary. Because for my money, Chris Smith has more than earned his reputation as one of the best directors of documentaries working today, and I urge everyone to have a look at this miniseries when the show comes out on Wednesday. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed my review. If so, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified for future content. But I can't thank you enough for listening. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.